Welcome to today's episode. If you have not yet done so, please subscribe to us however you listen to us. And at the same time, if you have not yet booked time into my schedule and you want to have a call with me, this past week I had probably 40 phone calls with people who listen to the podcasts, and it was cool to get an idea of what everybody does, what their goals are, what their struggles are, and to be able to actually speak with people because otherwise I'm just speaking to myself in my office and don't get to really talk to anybody. So it's cool to see the listeners and some of the people that are out there. So if you have not yet booked time and you want to book 20 minutes into my schedule, go to mwfmotivation.com/episode 119, I think is this episode. So mwfmotivation.com/episode 119. Also, later on this week, I will be announcing the group coaching. The group coaching has already started. They're actually going to get the video of this to be able to watch about 4 or 5 days before this episode actually comes out, which is one of the benefits and kind of cool. But I'll go into the group coaching a little bit more in depth. But if you have been one of those people who was interested in it, you want to know a little bit more about it before I actually officially announce it, just go to send me an email, rob@mwfmotivation.com. We can set up some time to have a quick chat about it. That being said, what I want to talk about today is the fact that the world owes you absolutely nothing. And I don't know what it is lately, but I was actually watching a Gary Vee podcast where he was talking about how it seems like people need immediate gratification nowadays. And I thought that was 100% true because now it seems like being an entrepreneur is like a cool thing. People want to be an entrepreneur. Just like, years ago, they wanted to be firefighters and then they wanted to be astronauts. Like those are cool jobs, or like stockbrokers or lawyers 20 years ago. That was like a cool job. Now it's cool to be an entrepreneur. It's cool to say you're an entrepreneur. But in reality, being an entrepreneur, a lot of times it really sucks. And that's why most people can't be entrepreneurs. So in another couple of years, people are going to probably stop talking about being an entrepreneur because it's not going to be the cool thing anymore. But what I have noticed, and people reach out to me all the time and they say, "Hey Rob, I want to be retired by 30 years old. I want to be retired by 35 years old, by 40 years old. What can I do to make a couple $100,000 this year and start my first business?" And the very first thought that I have is, I got an idea. How about you work for 6 months and make $0 and see if it's something that you want to do, and see if it's a viable business, and see if you can actually make some money doing whatever it is that you want to do. And people always want that immediate gratification. They feel like the world owes them something. With the fact that I can pick up my phone at any second and find any information that I want to at any point in time, when back in the day, I used to have to go to the library and get an encyclopedia and look it up. And you'd have to go through, if you guys remember the encyclopedias, you go through and you go, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, G, there it is. That's the encyclopedia that I need. And you'd look through the encyclopedia for 5 minutes and you go, well, that word that I need isn't in here. That information that I need isn't in here. I guess I'll never know this information. That's the way the world used to be. It used to not be immediate gratification. Now, if I'm like, hey, I wonder how far, actually, let's do this. If I were to just go ahead and say into my phone, maybe I'm at brunch and I go, how far is the sun from the earth?
The sun is 92.96 million miles from Earth.
Like, you can find that out that quickly by me just talking to my phone. Like, it didn't used to be that way. So people are so used to immediate gratification that they can know anything that they possibly want. They can know anything at all. Let's see if Google knows this though. What's the key to success? You hear that? That's nothing. Why? Because that's the one thing that Google doesn't know. What is the key to success? The key to success is working your freaking tail off and realizing that you might not make it. I've had a lot of phone calls the past week with some of the people who are listening to this podcast and they say, Rob, like I have this great idea, but I'm worried that I might fail. What do I do if I fail? Should I go after it? I might lose money going after it. And I say, yeah, you should. If it's really something that you're passionate about, you probably should. Because here's the deal. If you invest, let's say, $10,000 into starting your business and you fail, that is still one of the cheapest lessons that you could possibly learn on how to build a business. Because you could also go to school and spend $40,000 a year to sit in a classroom and get no real world experience. Or you could spend $10,000 into investing into your learning. And even if it fails, you go, man, that was a really good learning experience. But most people don't think of it as a learning experience. They think of it as, I failed, I'm not good at this, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? You need to take away that immediate gratification and realize if you're going to start a business today, there's a pretty good chance you might not make $50,000 or $100,000 your first year open. There's a good chance that you might not build it to $1 million business in 5 years. There's a pretty good chance if you stick with it for longer than 7 years, because most companies are out of business by 7 years, that you might see success. So this whole entrepreneur thing, this thing that you want to do you have the time? Do you have 7 years to invest into it? Because most people, they say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to retire by 40. No, being an entrepreneur isn't about retiring by 40. Being an entrepreneur is saying, I want to play this game. I get excited to wake up every single morning because I want to jump into the game. It's like a sport for most entrepreneurs. And that's why people say, why is that guy a billionaire and he's 70 years old and he still continues working? The reason why is because it's what he loves to do. It's the thrill of it that he loves. Most people nowadays just think, oh, I deserve to be successful. The world owes me. The world owes you nothing at all. You owe the world everything. You owe the fact that you are able to take, the world is able to take the carbon dioxide that comes from your lungs, have it go through trees and bring it back to you as oxygen so that you continue to stay alive. You owe the world something. The world owes you absolutely nothing. You need to take action. You need to go out and actually do stuff. And people are just trying to get rich nowadays. And they think that with everything being immediate, they can get there as quick as they possibly can. You want to know the key to being successful? Be selfless. That's the key to being successful. Be as selfless as you possibly can. I had a dinner a little while ago, and it was with a couple of people who were also podcasting, and they said, well, so Rob, with your podcast, when you first started it, how did you figure that you were going to make money off of it? What was your plan of making money off of it? And my plan was not to make money off of it. My plan, what I tell everybody, this is my plan with I'm going to let you in the dirty secrets of starting my podcast. My plan was to not make money off it as long as I possibly can. And I said to everybody, I'm going to treat it like Facebook, because everybody said, how are you going to monetize your podcast? If you're putting so much time into it, how are you going to monetize it? I said, I'm going to treat it like Facebook. I'm going to try to grow my podcast as much as I possibly can, not care about making money off of it, and just see if I can, make the best product that I possibly can, bring the best content that I can, and maybe down the road I'll figure out something. And these people who were at this podcasting event with me at this dinner looked at me like I was crazy. And the reason why is because most people who start podcasts now start podcasts because they heard that you can make a lot of money doing it. You can't make a lot of money doing it. Some people can. Very few people make a lot of money podcasting. Believe me, if I was trying to get rich, I wouldn't do this. This would not be the forum to do so. I did this because I wanted to be selfless. If you want to be successful, whatever it is, the main thing that you got to think is not dollar signs. The main thing that you got to think is people. How can I affect as many people as I possibly can? Actually, I was listening to Peter Diamandis the other day, who wrote Bold, and he wrote Abundance. He's probably one of the most incredible beings that's alive. And he said, if you want to become a billionaire, figure out how you can affect 1 billion people and change 1 billion people's lives. Because if you can make $1 off of each one of them, you're then a billionaire. You need to be selfless and put as much value into the world as you possibly can. And it might sound like some, woo-woo, here's the world and the universe, it's the way that it works, but it's true. Bad people get what's coming to them. Good people get what's coming to them. You got to go out there and be as selfless as you possibly can. Have a mentality of selflessness. Have a mentality of service. That's the only true way to be successful. And you might say, but yeah, there's some people that are complete scumbags and they're super successful. Yeah, they might be, but that's not long-term success. They'll probably lose it. They'll have some type of way where we see all the time. People get super rich and then they get arrested for doing something stupid, or for being, for scamming a lot of people, or they get super rich and then they lose all of it. That's just karma. That's the way the world works. If you want long-term success, here's a couple of things. Number one, you need to be selfless, and you need to do everything that you can for free if you have to, for a while, to bring as much value to the world as you possibly can. That's the first thing that you need to do. And the second thing that you need to do is realize it's going to take time. You should not want immediate gratification. You should realize it's going to take years. If you really want to build something big, it's going to take years. It's not like everyone just goes and starts Snapchat and becomes a billionaire right away, or they start Instagram and become a billionaire right away. You hear about those stories, but you don't hear about all of the people who are grinding and putting hours and hours and not making any money, but they're doing it because that's what they're passionate about. You don't hear about those that often. But eventually those people get to be successful because they put everything that they can into it. They're selfless and they believe wholeheartedly in what they do. And that's what keeps them going when the times get really freaking rough. So here's the thing. The world is a grind. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an employee, whatever it is, if you want to be successful, work your freaking tail off. That's the key to it. If you want to be an entrepreneur, work your freaking tail off and don't expect anything out of it and see what comes in it. Try not to be successful if you work your freaking tail off. The second thing, if you're an employee, work your tail off and see what comes of it. If you are someone who works at McDonald's, cleaning the toilets, whatever it is, work your freaking tail off. Don't think that the world owes you anything. And if you work really hard, try not to be promoted. Companies don't fire their best employees. So if you try to be the best employee, if you try to be the best employee you possibly can be, work harder than anybody else and see if that company doesn't promote you. It's not immediate gratification. You can't expect immediate gratification nowadays. It's just the way the world works. You put your time in, you put your effort in, you try to help as many people as you possibly can. And if you do all of that, there's pretty much no way that you can't be successful, but realize it's going to take years to get there. Take action, get off your tail, work hard for other people, and see if you don't become successful at that point. So with that, like I said, if you want to book time in my calendar, mwfmotivation.com/episode 119. I think that is. I think it's 119. You'll be able to see when you look at whatever this is playing on and you're listening. And the last thing, if you're interested in the group coaching, rob@mwfmotivation.com. I'll give some more information on it a little bit later on this week. But with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission today to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day as well.